Please welcome Stephen Strong.
How are we doing? Mic okay? Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. So, I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to talk about TikTok and our journey with TikTok and a lot of our insights over the last couple of years since we've launched. And then I'm going to switch a little bit and talk about our version of influencer marketing, which is really relying on patients and how we identify those, as well as some of our rockstar physicians. So all social media, first TikTok, then our version of influencers. So a little bit about Northwestern Medicine. Everyone's probably heard of Cleveland Clinic from yesterday, probably not so much NM. We're Chicago-based. We're in Northern Illinois. We are an academic medical center, which means we're tied to a school of medicine with Northwestern University, as well as we treat very highly specialized cases. We treat regular cases as well, but some of the best physicians in the world are at Northwestern Medicine. But we're mostly a regional brand, so majority of our patient base is Chicago and Northern Illinois. As you mentioned, I've been in healthcare since 2016 when I joined NM. Before that, I was on the CPG side. Before that, I was on the agency side. So it's been interesting and fun bringing a lot of consumer marketing kind of best practices and perspectives into healthcare, which is traditionally much, much slower than other categories. It's gotten a lot faster since COVID, for better or worse. But it's been interesting the last 8 years, really bringing digital marketing and digital experience strategy into a large health institution. So I'll talk a little bit about TikTok. We launched in 2021 as a pilot. It took us 8 months to get approved. This was back in the day when President Trump was trying to ban TikTok because they were owned by China. There's a lot of misconceptions. Most of our senior leadership are not on social media, anything social media, let alone TikTok. So there's a lot of myths we had to dispel. Our IT security group was concerned because if we put videos of our doctors on TikTok, China would know who they are. And I had to explain, we have this thing called Find a Doctor on our website, which has all our doctor photos and a lot more information than will be on TikTok. Another senior physician was like, isn't that where all the furries hang out? And I was kind of like, furries, well, probably, but also it's a big place, so don't worry about it. And we eventually had to present to our CEO to get approval, just to get an account on there. So eventually got approval, speed of healthcare, it's not that fast. And it was nice because it was a soft launch. We were just, hey, we're just gonna take content from our other social channels, video content we've created, and bring that into TikTok. We handle all our social in-house, so when I first joined, I brought social away from our agency, so we do all our content creation, content publishing, content strategy, measurement, and we're fortunate to have a creative and a video services team, so we were able to create all our content, all our video content in-house, which is much more efficient. And I'll show you some of the content that's performed really well and the themes, and we'll talk a little about paid media as well. Quickly, just about TikTok itself. It continues to grow, right? So it was growing fast. I have kids, and they were all on TikTok back in the 2016, 17, 18, 19. And one of the things, though, the misconception was it's for the kids. And so, we had to do a lot of work. And over the last couple of years, it's really skewed older. I think that's just because all the kids are already on it. So as TikTok's grown their platform and their audience, it's the older folks like us who are joining. Sorry, kids, we're ruining TikTok too. But some Statista is a site that has some good TikTok statistics. They publish an annual report. The new one just came out in January, so I had some fresh data. And what's interesting there is, if you look from an age group, there's a lot now over age 27. 77% of the users are over 27. We're healthcare, 35 plus is our audience. Those are the healthcare decision makers. And so it was important to be able to bring some of these statistics as we were growing our TikTok presence to show, hey, our followers are skewing older. It's not just talking to the kids who don't have control over their health decisions. And people are just using it more and more. So a year ago, the average time was 56 minutes. Now they reported 1.5 hours is the average time, which is just crazy. And it's not quite as popular as Instagram and YouTube yet, but it's definitely one of the main platforms for social engagement. Talk a little about healthcare in TikTok. It's still, I feel, early days. Kind of two key stats I've been able to find, again, from Statista. Healthcare is the number 3 interest group for TikTok users. First is entertainment, second is food and dining, health information, especially wellness information is third. And it's a little bit older, this Forbes research in December 2022 found that 20% of Americans were looking on TikTok for health information, which kind of naturally, people go to social, the internet for information. The challenge is there's not a lot of official health providers on TikTok. And so of the top 20 US News ranked hospitals, we're generally number 10. There's 7 of us. and you kind of go from top bottom. There's ourselves, Cleveland Clinic and Houston Methodist, all have 50 to 60,000 followers. As you go down that list, it gets into the below 10,000. So there's not a lot of official health information out there. A lot of physicians, and most of them are talking about it from their professional opinion, but they don't really represent their health institutions. And 2 studies from Duke and University of Arizona showing that there is a lot of misinformation just in two specific areas. So we do feel it's important to be there representing facts and representing the right health information, but we have a lot of competition and it's not always accurate. All right, I'll start showing some examples in a second. One of the last things we did as we were really formalizing and launching our presence is we had to have a content strategy, so we adapted our other social content strategies. First year, we just looked at what's our best performing videos and let's get them onto TikTok. Really low lift there. And then we started creating more original TikTok content following the trends, and I'll show you some examples of those. And we found a couple key categories that I'll share with you of high performing. And one of the things we found, and this was great when we first launched, we had like 2,000 followers, and we had one COVID vaccine video launch and got over 350,000 views organically. And that, fortunately, was in the pilot phase and gave me a great case study example to show around. And I was just like, how does that happen? Most other social channels like Meta, they tap down on your organic views. Maybe 10% of our followers see our content. TikTok was the exact opposite, and really the recommendation engine is amazing. If you're on TikTok, the For You section is just showing you content you didn't know you'd want to see, and most of the time it's pretty accurate. So what we found is you hit that right algorithm, and TikTok is more than happy to share your content with a ton of people. And we have had a variety of videos get over 200, 500,000. We've had a couple in the millions now. 2 million is our high score. And this is all just organic views before we even put paid against it. So I'm going to show you some examples. I'm not going to show all the full videos. Most of our videos are 2 minutes long. And what we found is short form videos, like 30 seconds, perform just as well as long form videos. For TikTok, 2 minutes is pretty long. And so, we have a lot of information we want to share, patient stories, that type of thing. So I won't show all the full videos, but I'll give you enough of a taste of each one so you get the idea. This is our latest, we call it Viral Achiever.
When they told me I was having a stroke, I said, do you think I'm having a stroke, or do you know I'm having a stroke? Because having a stroke is probably the last thing I was thinking I was going to hear. You just don't associate that with a 33-year-old. I certainly didn't associate it for me. My initial inclination and what I would have done if I were alone during this whole thing would have been to sleep it off. And if I had slept it off, I would not be talking, might not be walking, might not be here.
Time is brain.
So I'll pause there for a second. So people love patient stories. Patient stories do really well for us in social, regardless of the platform. Only thing that does better is newborns, but the newborns crush it. But we're not a pediatric hospital completely, so that's limited content calendar for them. But patient stories, I'll show you a couple of examples, just do really well. And for us, it's not just having a patient story with a positive outcome, but it's really representing the areas of expertise and the specialty that Northwestern Medicine stands for, and represent that through a patient's eyes. I'll show you a little bit of the first one, and then I'll show you most of the second one. The second one has over 2 million views, organic.
I was really healthy. I was at the peak of my activities, no symptoms, nothing. And then my gynecologist said, because of my family history, you should get a genetic test done. My youngest brother had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2019, my oldest brother at the early 2021, but I was not really overly concerned about my health.
So in this case, in patients.
So we kind of get the story for that one, and this one I'll share the full video.
Good morning. My pain generally is around my upper jaw to my lower jaw, up through my sinuses, behind my eyes, stabbing pain in my right temple, and then sore behind my neck and ear. It's been like that on and off for 6 months of varying degrees. Some days I have good days. Some days I don't do anything because it's so bad. It's been difficult for the last 6 months to have a normal life. Eating, talking, brushing, all those hurt. I get about maybe 2 hours where I can get up and do something. Other than that, I'm just trying to be still and concentrate on not upsetting the pain. I feel amazingly good after the surgery. I was able to eat a breakfast bar with no pain for the first time in 6 months, which made me cry because it felt so good. Excuse me. It's an amazing transformation of what I felt like. So I'm very, very happy.
And everyone makes you cry too, which is tough when you're presenting. So patient stories, do really well for us. On average, organic, we get about 2,000 views per video. But then when you hit that sweet spot with the recommendation engine with TikTok, they'll give you a couple 100,000. Before I move on to the next one, last year for the full year, we published 65 videos on TikTok and got 5.8 million organic views. For comparison, on all the other channels, Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, we published total 400 videos and got 700,000 organic views before we put paid behind that content. So it really has been amazing with TikTok to see how they will support your content when they like it. Clinical edutainment. So we're a teaching hospital as well because we're tied to a university. Just education and educating patients and educating physicians from other hospitals is a big part of what we do as a mission. TikTok's a balance. We wanted educational content, but it also has to be entertaining. So we came up with clinical edutainment as a theme that we do a lot of content against. I'll show you a couple clips for two of those.
So can you talk us through what you're putting on and why it's so important?
So what we're putting on is what we call our joint spacesuit. This is a suit that we use for joint replacement surgery whenever we're putting implants in. This helps decrease the risk of infection by protecting our entire face and our entire body. So this type of surgery is
We have another series called Inside the OR where a video team goes in and shoots actual surgeries. And the reason she's wearing that suit is for joint replacement. They literally take a mallet and a big metal stick and they pop your joint out and stuff sprays everywhere. It's that one's a bit more graphic. Sorry if you're getting a knee replacement surgery anytime soon. And then this
Happy
one's
holidays,
appropriate
everybody.
For everyone going home
Making
today.
the decision between an aisle or window seat on your next flight matters more than you might realize. Sitting puts 3 to 5 times more force on the discs of the low back than standing does. So when you sit for a long period of time, you are putting a lot of pressure on your back. That's why as a spine surgeon, I highly recommend choosing an aisle over a window seat on your next flight. This allows more of an opportunity for you to stand and move around during the flight. Some of my other tips to prepare for a...
That's a teaser to go watch the rest of the video before you head to the airport. All right, last examples. We're watching content themes. TikTok cycles through a lot. Things become very, very popular, then fade away. One of the content themes we were seeing in other categories was kind of this day in the life of an employee. And we had done day in the lives during COVID and our other social channels to show the safety procedures our staff go through during the heyday of COVID and really celebrating our nurses and our behind-the-scenes staff who were spending a lot of time and effort during COVID treating patients. And so day in the life is a theme that works really well for us. We go with find an employee type of specialty, and we have a video team, just follow them around. And we shoot it all ahead of time, and then we stitch it together. And then in 60 seconds was a trend, which we continue to use because it still performs pretty well. So I'll just show you brief examples.
Hi, my name is Michaela. I'm a surgical intensive care unit nurse, and this is how I always start off my day, by clocking in, and then let me show you around.
We moved this one from LinkedIn over to TikTok, so the format drives me nuts, but
The ICU stands for intensive care unit, and patients that are admitted on this sort of unit.
And then in 60 seconds.
In the next 60 seconds, I'll tell you what you need to know about the latest medications being used for weight loss. Now, medications like Ozempic and Mounjaro were approved for management of type 2 diabetes. Medications like Wegovy and Zepbound are approved for overweight and obesity management. These medications help to lower.
So this format's really good with our physicians because we're like, you have 60 seconds. What do you want to tell us about? And it gets them focused. They can go on for more than 60 seconds often, but it's a nice format. Just it kind of constrains their topic, and we find physicians who are comfortable. Sometimes we just give them phones and they shoot themselves. We don't always have a full video crew there. TikTok's pretty lenient when it comes to perceived quality of video content, so that helps out as well. I'm going to round it out just with TikTok around paid media. So we were getting some good organic hits. Not all our content, as I mentioned, goes viral. So often 2,000, 3,000 views. And so, we do paid media in our other channels, other platforms. And we're like, well, let's test it out. So last year we tested about, 3,000 to 4,000 a month. We tested various spends, a couple $100s with a video. We went as high as $15,000 for a video. That was at the end of the fiscal season. We had some budget to spend. It's early days, I would say, for paid. The targeting's pretty basic. We can at least geo-target, which is important to us as a regional health system. And we can target over 35 plus, which is very important to our chief marketing officer. And for the first 6 months, it really worked well for us. So our follower growth went through the roof because we're reaching so many new people with our paid content. And even those videos that were kind of low organic performers, we're getting a bigger audience. Our follower count, as it grew, over 42,000, was skewing older, which was good for us. And on average of 2,000 organic, we were getting on average 200,000 views for posts with paid behind it. The one interesting thing for those of you in the media side, the CPM, so if you think, how much we spent $1,000, got 1,000 views, that's $1 CPM maybe. The CPMs you would think would get cheaper, more efficient the more you spent, and we found the opposite. Like when we spent $15,000 on one video, if you did the CPM math, it was a lot more expensive than spending $1,000. Not sure why. I think it's still just early days with TikTok, but just more money got us more views, but not necessarily more efficient number of views. And lastly, with TikTok, there's 3 trends we're watching, especially in healthcare. TikTok is a search engine. It's rare for a social platform to become a search engine. Pinterest became a search engine, but we're seeing a lot more people, especially the youth, looking for TikTok. And again, there's a lot of information that's incorrect out there when it comes to health. So that's another reason we feel it's important for us to have a place there. Lifestyle content is continuing to trend, and so we keep an eye on what's trending there. And then amazingly, they announced photo mode recently, and so photo mode is just your slideshows. And so I think they're going after brands that don't have the resources or the budget to create a lot of video content. And so we see photo slideshows do really well for us in Facebook specifically, so that's interesting. I don't know if the TikTok audience is going to tolerate photos instead of videos. We'll see what happens, but that's definitely something to look into as well. Okay, I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes talking about our influencer strategy. We're a regional health system, so large influencer programs with entertainers or people with millions of views in social or millions of followers isn't necessarily the right spot for us, especially as a regional brand. So I tasked my social team with really figuring out what's our version of influencers. And we ended up identifying an opportunity for patient influencers. I'll show you some examples. And then we do have some rockstar physicians with large followings on social. And how do we tap into them? The big challenge for us is for compliance. We can't compensate patients for being in our content, for being a patient story. They do it because they're very happy with their care and very passionate about their physician usually. So all this is unpaid, supported there. And we had to find patients who are promoting their care at NM in social, but also had a decent number of followers. And so we really use that as a litmus for any patient story we can put on TikTok and promote with paid. But we're interested in finding, do we have patients who actually have a large social following? So not just are we leveraging them in our content and promoting them, but they can do vice versa. And that was really, and we do about 3 to 5 campaigns a year. So this isn't like an always on thing, but also we've been able to find them through social listening. So 3 examples of recent ones. Past Miss Illinois from Miss Illinois 2018 was treated with melanoma at our health system and was posting about it online. We found her, went, oh, she's Miss Illinois or was Miss Illinois. That's a good hook. And so we were able to leverage her in content. We do it in a format of day in the life. I'll show you an example next, which is, for us, it had been a 5-day posting on Instagram, started with Instagram stories, and every day was part of their care journey. So we shot all the content, created all the content ahead of time, got it approved, and then every day we released more content. We found Jimmy Choi, who was on American Ninja Warrior, had over 20,000 followers. He was being treated for Parkinson's at NM, so we did his Parkinson's journey. And then lastly, I'll show you an example of not really a entertainer or someone who's more famous, but had a good amount of followers and was very actively blogging her journey with breast cancer and having the BRCA2 gene. So this is just a little example of kind of how that day of life would work for us. So every day we'd put content out there, stitch it together. So by the 5th day, all the content was out there. It was a mix of, photo, video, and...
Thank you for following along this week with my journey. But now it's time for you to be proactive about your breast health. So watch today's video about how to perform a self-breast assessment.
So also still educational and again, leveraging patients who are really passionate and willing to go a lot of extra steps to help us create content. The last example I'll show is our most recent one, Kristen Kaza, who has this amazing, crazy story. She got treated for fertility at our facilities. She then was in a car accident, gave birth prematurely to twins, but also then found she had a heart condition while she was giving birth, and then was treated for a heart condition with us. Like, this is just amazing story. And she was so kind and generous to provide content she had created during her journey, and allow us to piece it together. The full video, and this was a 2-day, we posted part 1, part 2. It's over 6 minutes long, and we had over, like I said, a 72% completion rate, which is huge for that type of content, especially on Instagram. So I'll show you just a little bit of her story.
Well, girl, you got yourself a set of identical twins.
Oh,
No way.
wow.
Way.
Baby.
Times 2.
Baby, there's twins.
It's 2. Are you sure? Come on.
You can find this on our Instagram channel. Like I said, it's 6 minutes long, and it just takes through a journey. And there's a lot packed in there, obviously, but the user engagement, the comments, probably the most positive sentiment we've ever had with a patient's story. Pretty incredible. Okay, lastly, I'm going to round out, patients, finding those who are both influential in their own social channels and have great stories we can help them tell. Also, we started identifying we had physicians who had a lot of followers. Not a lot of physicians, but a good handful. And so, part of that is we're looking at physicians that are active on social. They have to want to be active on social. You can't make a doctor be active on social. And predominantly their content is around health and healthcare and their area of specialty. They're not just promoting Northwestern medicine, but they're definitely promoting the health topics they treat. And so it's kind of a two-way street for us. So we're like, hey, come in, help create us social content for our channels that they promote for us, and then what can we do to help you out with your social channels as far as creating content as well. And it's been a pretty good partnership with a few of these physicians who just have a lot of followers and are super passionate. They celebrate their teams and their staff, and always get patient consent for any patient content they publish. But it's been really fun working with them and seeing their passion, and conversely, we help them out too. I think that's it.
Stephen, thank you. You've got to have questions for this one.
That's all right, no worries.
Hang on.
Stephen, fantastic presentation, so educational. I'm sure there's so many folks in here who want to do what you're doing and yet haven't even begun. So I know you mentioned using existing content when you first did your pilot. Can you give any advice to brands or folks in the room who want to start that?
Yeah.
And especially from a compliance perspective and a formatting perspective, I know you mentioned LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Maybe wasn't the best asset to transition, but there's got to be social assets.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm rambling, but just
any
advice?
It was, to sell this in, because there's no way I was going to be like, give me budget to bring on a content person or pay an agency. So it was grassroots. And so, there were some, you got to look at your different formats that you're shooting. And, we're fortunate we have an in-house video editing team. So we were able to take even some of the letterbox content and kind of fake it a bit to make it look vertical. But over time, again, with our in-house group, it was more about, hey, you're shooting something, get some TikTok version too, right? And so, and I think in Instagram, we started going more more vertical as well in format. So it is, if you do it in-house or you have an agency doing it, it is thinking about the production planning for that, especially if you want to use that, just the format itself. And we had one super passionate 25-year-old creative who just loved TikTok, and she just went out of her way. She was like making more content than we needed. And I was just like, you got to slow down, right? Like, so if you got someone who's super passionate about TikTok, that helps too, because they follow, they're on it every day. They follow the trends. Much easier to figure out in 60 seconds was a format we should adapt than kind of waiting for a monthly report to come through. So it really is finding those passionate folks who really just love TikTok. It's a good starting point.
What's the timeline for production from the time you're detecting a trend to being able to actually execute against it?
In 60 seconds, within the same month, I would say. Again, we were able to get to physicians, and because you don't have to have a whole set bring to the studio, we have, sometimes we just give them phones. And so it's more, the biggest challenge is getting a physician's time, even 60 seconds of their time. But yeah, we can do pretty quick turnaround with our in-house group.
Nice job, Stephen. John Curcio. Wanted just to understand, when you set the expectation. Too much partying last night.
It's all right.
It's John's fault. When setting expectations with the C&V suite, when you wanted to do this, what was the commitments that you provided from a metric standpoint, and then what are they asking today as you go through it?
It's funny, they kind of forgot, to be honest. Like most of our senior leadership, we have a new CEO who started last year. He's more savvy, which is nice. But it's proactive on our part. And that first hit, that first 350,000 video view hit really helped, because that was like, I want to be more focused on it, right? We want to put the logo on our homepage and link to it. So the first year was, we didn't have the logo on our homepage. We weren't quite sure what was going to happen. I wasn't overselling it. I kind of went stealth mode with it just to see how the content worked. And I was fortunate. They kind of left me alone. But by the end of the first 6 months to a year, we had enough kind of viral hits that we were able to bring forward, considered viral hits, right? Bring it forward and started boasting a bit more. The paid media for that, I've kind of scraped out of other budgets, kind of behind the scenes. So again, we're not spending big dollars with TikTok from a paid standpoint, but we're showing it works. My biggest challenge is my chief marketing officer still thinks it's for the kids, and so those analytics are really helping to prove that no, we're attracting the right audiences. It's probably outside of Illinois as well, right? I doubt all our followers are in Chicago, which is our core place, but a national reputation is okay too for us. We're just not as well known as Cleveland Clinic.
TikTok and a lot of the social channels are sort of famous for users, for not only creative going viral, but users taking the content and reusing it in ways that were never anticipated. What experiences have you had in the ways in which they're picked up, some of your content is being picked up and reused by others? Have there been any problems?
Yeah, funny, we haven't had a lot of that actually, of people kind of just bootlegging our content and repurposing it. It's almost the exact opposite. Our UGC, user-generated content, our social teams looking for people posting at our locations, tagging us. The vice versa, like our UGC, we have some of the best UGC from a patient standpoint, especially on Instagram. We call it the happy patients, right? People are posting about their care, happy about their last cancer treatment, and we've got a compliance consent process to get their okay to then repurpose their content in our channels. And so it's really that we have a flood of UGC that we identify and repurpose every month. But yeah, we haven't really had, I'd be happy if someone took some of our, as long as they did it appropriately and reworked it. But I think healthcare especially our type of healthcare is very complex. I think it's just tough for someone to decide what to do with it.
Stephen, that was wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thanks for your time.